welcome to the Enterprise 2.0 TV show. We're here at JackBe World Headquarters, and we're talking with John Crupi, CTO of JackBe, about the state of enterprise mashups circa 2009. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
So we've talked about mashups in the industry for 2-3 years now, and they're just starting to get, I think, to be mainstream in the enterprise from a perception standpoint. But one of the things I get asked, I think, the most about mashups is, why do I need a tool, or why do tools help versus coding them up yourself?
It's a great question, and we're asked that often too. I think it's really a matter of understanding that this is really a time accelerator. The amount of time that it takes to get data from multiple sources, silos of information, moving from your existing portal, taking from your portal, your SAP, your Oracle system, copying and pasting that into Excel, and taking days or months or teams to do this. Now we've got technologies such as enterprise mashups that can allow you to, through an IT, going in, putting in the security and governance around your data, allowing the business and business developers to get at this data very quickly and to put it in the context that they need to make decisions. And they can share this and they can customize and personalize it. So we're really taking kind of the Web 2.0 from the consumer side and putting it into the enterprise.
Well, and it seems to me, a lot of the problem is, one, is trying to reach your data. And you have to develop a lot of tools to go out there and connect to this piece of information, or get that feed, or read that database, or open that file. And that's a lot of the plumbing that you should have to focus on. It seems mashups are about bringing all the things you need together to quickly solve the problem.
Right, it's things that we do every day, pulling data from different sources, but in a manual way. And what users want is they want to be able to get at this information faster, and they want to be able to make decisions faster. So what we did with enterprise mashups and Presto, our mashup platform in particular, we took out all the heavy programming and development time that's associated with taking data from standards-based services. So could we have done this 10 years ago? Probably not, because standards didn't exist for WSDL and SOAP and RSS and REST and things like that. Now we can get about 90-95% of the types of data sources out there in a standard way to take all that work and manual effort out. If we can automate or make that much faster, so that IT can essentially click and register and put the security and governance, then we can really accelerate how fast we can do these things, and we can get down to hours and days in many of these situations.
Yeah, well, I think open standards really accelerates the process of creating these ad hoc applications based on web technologies. But it seems to me that the tools, not only in addition bringing all that standards compliance, they also help with security, because the wild world of web development, there's a lot to worry about if you're trying to build solutions.
Exactly, and when we would talk about Presto and mashups 2-3 years ago, we would contrast and compare to Google and how they did consumer mashups. And we would say that we're a lot like Google and what they do with consumer mashups, except we sit on the server and we do all the security and governance that's required in the enterprise. And that's the #1 design tenet that you have to have in enterprise mashups. You have to be able to plug into your existing security. You have to be able to apply governance around those data sources, because IT is responsible for that. They, as an organization, have to have accountability for what users are accessing what data, and they don't want to bring in another identity management system, and they don't want to bring in a whole new infrastructure set of services. So they want to plug into their existing and know that they're adhering to the security and governance, and then you can move on to the step where we can say making your data mashable. So
that's interesting that you said that, because it sounds like that IT is an essential component of being successful with enterprise mashups. But is it required, or is it just a good idea, or what?
No, you have to have IT there. IT owns the data, and IT owns the access of this information. Now it's a multi-step process, or multi-tiered. The idea here is that we're not going to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of data sources. We're going to have a manageable set. This could be in the thousands, but it's not going to be 2, and it's not going to be 1 million. So putting control around that and doing the work up front, where IT is there and working on the security and governance, and then you can start creating these mashups. That's the key to all of this. Is IT just doing the security and governance? No, they're actually creating a lot of the mashups. Some of the work is lower level work where they have to do more intricate things to get data from some of these services. But ultimately, we want to expand the reach of the users and be able to have the business units innovate and also solve their problems very quickly and share internally and potentially with their customers and partners.
So, I mean, it sounds to me like you're saying IT is an essential enabler.
Essential.
But aren't IT departments going to worry that with mashup tools, letting almost anyone who wants to sit down and create a mashup solution, that it creates a whole management headache? Or is that where the governance comes in?
Well, that's where the governance comes in. As a matter of fact, if you look at the consumer side, where the more the merrier on IT, that scares them. And if you had to really narrow it down to one thing, exposing this data outside of the firewall is the key concern. And this was part of the problem that IT organizations had with SOA. They said, okay, if I make my systems loosely coupled and start exposing it, how do I control who accesses this data?
Mm-hmm.
And so this whole governance was a big problem for IT to understand SOA. But then when you look at exposing your data in user widgets or other types of applications to users and not putting control at the user perspective but at the data perspective, then they start understanding that, oh, if I can actually control right at the edge or at the firewall, and everything is going through me or through my mashup server, then I can actually put a central point of control and security. Then they start understanding how they can start exposing the data, because ultimately the governance and security is wrapped around all of this.
Yeah, so and that makes a lot of sense to me. To wrap up, I was just curious about, I'm not sure everyone really understands the full benefits of the mashup approach, and I've been on record calling it the next major new application development model. I think that, we talked about what you guys are doing. We add that enterprise context, that security and governance, and you make it easy to bring all the pieces together and you connect to your data. But the business value piece, trying to understand where that comes in. What makes mashups unique compared to other application development models?
Well, one of the things is that for technology that works with IT, this is probably the first time, at least in my career, that we can put a face on it and show the business something very quickly. So with the advent of new technologies, Web 2.0 style technologies, and being able to do portals and browsers without full-blown portal systems and be able to drag and drop and customize and interact, these are very compelling things to business users, because this is what when they go home at night, they see on the web, or they do, or they see what their kids doing. So being able to show this capability and interact and see data, there's no reason that they couldn't do it into their organization. So they understand the technologies that's available to consumers, but then when they see that, hey, I can actually connect to my SAP system and my Siebel system, and then my Salesforce system that I just brought
directly to the live data they need.
Directly to the live data, being able to hook into real-time data. We're not talking about getting access to your data the next day after it's been batch loaded. We're talking about real-time access. When you have
you're plugged right into the business, essentially.
Right into the business, right into the data. There's one source of the truth. Mashups don't copy data into a system or repository. They access the real data. When you start plugging in your existing data and real-time data, then they could understand that they can make decisions now and put data in the context that they need to make decisions much faster than they've ever been able to do before.
Yeah, well, I think there's this temporal aspect too, whereas you're really focused more on assembly and reuse of what you already have and the data you already have, more than trying to create a lot of new software. So you actually can do things much, much faster and get solutions.
That's right. We try to take the plumbing, all that heavy lifting that you had to do before, into getting access to this data. And the other thing we have to do is not disrupt your existing security and architecture that into place. Because many of us come from the SOA world and enterprise architecture world. We know that if you have to change things, that it's going to just increase the amount of time. So we don't disrupt. We just consume what we can get access to and conform to their security and even organizational and infrastructure standards. And then we give them a common way to access this. So the good news from a user perspective is that they can actually have this technology in place and be up and running in days or weeks, and be able to see the benefit, because you don't have to bring in a whole new set of infrastructure.
So you basically run side by side, non-destructively. You cooperate with.
We cooperate. We'll run right inside your portal. We'll participate in single sign-on. We'll consume service data. It doesn't matter to us if it's internal or partner or external. We treat it all the same.
Very good. Well, John, I'd like to thank you for joining us. You're kind of a well-known figure in your own right in the J2EE and in the mashups community. Can you give us just a quick preview where you'll be speaking next?
Well, actually, I'll be doing a panel, an eGov panel tomorrow, and then I'll be at CBIT in March.
Yeah, excellent.
Great.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And this is Dion Hinchcliffe, Enterprise 2.0 TV show.